got? Spring countdown box. Ooh, what a pretty embossing powder called Tulip. Shake that down. All right. Well, I'm going to film this kind of live without editing it. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to swatch it out. I just need to find a jar quick. These jars from Brutus Monroe, these are the older jars. I'm going to use this up because this embossing powder is probably limited to the box, so I won't be using it as much on camera. But what I do is, and this is my way of doing this, I like them. They come in these great pouches, which are resealable. But for me, I make too much of a mess. So I like to put them in the jars. And then I can stack them easier. This is not something that you have to do. I'm going to grab a piece of paper here to kind of help me out. And I am going to actually anti-static powder it. Just a little bit, just to kind of help with the, stickiness of the powder. And I'm going to go ahead and pour it right in the jar. This is a beautiful embossing powder. I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do with this. May have to find an old stencil. Maybe a new stencil. We'll see. I'm just going to tap it over. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll tap it right out on my paper just to get the extra. It's all up to you and how much. You get a ton of embossing powder in these. Okay, I'm just trying not to make too big of a mess. And I'm just going to fold it up like this, tap it some more. Take it on here and I just tap it out. There we go. Now there's still some on here. There's still some on my desk. I just tapped this over my garbage. Here we go. Shake it off. And then I will grab a Swiffer cloth that I have here somewhere in a cup. I'm not sure where they're at right now, so I'm just going to use my regular cup, my regular cloth here. My Swiffer is gone for right now, and wipe that up. Okay, I had to grab a little bit of supplies, so I took a quick break. This is a free download on the website, and I will link it below. Also, anything I link below is an affiliate link, which just means if you place an order using one of my links, I get a small commission, which helps me bring you content like these videos. These are swatch dots. They come in a bulk pack, and I always buy the bulk packs. I'm not sure. I'll link both below. They're great for many purposes. They're double-sided adhesive. You can foil with these. You can use embossing powder on them like I'm going to show you. What I do is I like to swatch on these individual sheets of paper like this, and I will mark on here what this is. So this is Tulip, and then I have been keeping track myself, so I know spring countdown box day 10, and I'll put 2026. That way I know when I got this embossing powder and what it's from. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my scratch piece of paper again, and I'm going to peel off the swatch dots. And I'm going to just pour some of this embossing powder over the top. Now this is it's got like it looks like some silver in there maybe. And it's this kind of purpley fuchsia. Now, when I tap this off, I don't worry about it being perfect, but I don't tap it super hard because I don't want it to come all off my swatch dots, because they can if you're not careful. Okay. Now, before I heat emboss this, I am going to clean this up. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to grab my scissors, and I'm going to cut out. You can use a punch, you can use a die. I have found that a scissors works just as well, because I can go around, and I go around the whole thing. both sides. I don't worry about just getting the cover. I only need the cover. And then I will wipe this off. Okay, throw this away. And then I will peel the top of my swatch dots off, and I will just stick this down on top. And now this tells me when my embossing powder is. You could also use a Sharpie and write the date on this label if you wanted to. All right, let's swatch it quick. See what it looks like. So I'm gonna take my heat tool and heat it up a little bit. And that is our colors. And the reason I do one swatch dots on each, so you can see what it will look like on a clear cardstock and a dark cardstock. So there might be a little bit, is that translucent? I always get those two mixed up. So you might see a little bit of the dark, which could affect the color if you're on a darker cardstock, but it's very pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and find a stencil and some paper, and we'll make a card using this tulip embossing powder. I will be right back. Okay, I went and grabbed the wildflower stencil. I have not used this yet. This is from last month. I'm not gonna worry about being a perfect blend or any of that stuff. Just gonna go ahead. I'm actually just gonna use a little washi tape from the other day from the box just to tape that down. And I'm gonna go ahead and use one of Simon Hurley's inks. I'm going to use the Prom Queen. It is a pink ink, so I'm going to put this over a pink ink. And I'm going to use a blending brush. Now, I have another magnet here. Let's put this magnet down in this corner. And I'm going to tap off a little bit, and I'm just going to go in, do a real quick blend. Sorry if there's some shaking from my table. I can promise you it is not my camera. You want to fast forward this part if I get motion sickness, but I'm an aggressive blender. Okay, now that that part is done there, let's get that back. Oops, I moved the stencil just enough, or just use my paper just enough. So I'm just gonna line it back up. You could use pixie spray, but I don't like to use this pixie spray when I'm gonna use embossing powder because I tend to use too much, and then my embossing powder sticks to where my pixie spray is. So let's get this down in this corner, and then we'll cover this corner up. Like I said, it does not have to be a perfect blend because we're going to cover some of this up. The Simon Hurley inks stay wet a little bit longer. So one of the fun things I think that's going to be fun with this is to go ahead and just, because I'm going to do a quick blend. Some darker spots. Not gonna worry about it, you know, the messiness. Pull this off quick. Oh, fun. Grab this one, and we're gonna line that right back up. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is a fun little, I'm just gonna use that same ink and just go real dark over the centers. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a little kind of spot embossing powder technique, which I'll show you what I mean. We're going to do a messy embossing powder technique. I haven't done this in a long, long time. Okay, that looks good. Just put those off to the side. I'm going to quickly, I'm not going to wipe up my stencils, but I am going to quickly wipe off my desk here, so I don't get my fingers inside that. All right, let's grab that scratch paper again. And we're just gonna do some selective embossing powder on here. We're just gonna cover up some areas and do some other areas here. Just kind of some random spots. Maybe we'll make that flower looks that will be fun. And then let's heat emboss this. Now, I did not anti-static power tool it, so there is a little bit of like it's sticking a little bit in between the flowers. If you don't want that, you could very, very easily just wipe that off with a, dry paintbrush. Go in here and just kind of, oops, my paintbrush broke. I think I broke this the other day. And go in and blow it a little bit too. I'm not going to worry about too much because I think I'm going to add some splatter. So I'm going to quick cover this up. Get my heat tool out again. I'm just going to cover it up. And you can see that where the ink was a little dry, it's starting to kind of scatter away. So this is where you could have done from underneath. Looks pretty good actually, because like I said, I just want a hint of it. I hope you can see that pretty color. Oops, let's see if I can get the camera to focus. It's sparkly. It might not. There we go. So just a little bit here and there. I'm going to, off camera, because it takes up some time, I'm going to heat emboss this on a sheet of paper to cut out a sentiment from my stash, just a basic sentiment. But first I want to add a little bit of splatter, and I'm going to use a little bit of this Berry Tangle. This was part of Maroon Madness, I believe, or not Maroon Madness. I think this was part of, this was a freebie not too long ago. Maybe it was, I don't remember exactly what it was from, but I'm going to add some of that. Like I said, I will link anything that is available for purchase outside the box down below. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and then I'm going to go off camera quick, and I'm going to heat emboss a panel of paper, which I'm just going to take some white, I guess I can show you a little bit of what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a piece of cardstock like this, and I'm just going to cover it with embossing ink. And then I'm going to go through my stash and find a sentiment die that I want to use to cover this, to cut this out. I'm thinking I might do the shadow layer in this, and I might do the regular layer in white. I haven't decided yet. I will do that, so I'm just going to cover it like this. And then I'm just going to heat set this, and then I will come back and after I die cut it out. I've got some stuff cut out here. We are going to cut our panel down. I wanted to make sure I had my sentiments cut out. My die was sticking, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off the edges here a little bit. Just do that. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and this is at 4 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it at 2 1/8. So I can actually do 2 cards if I really want to out of this. Probably we're just going to make the one for right now, though. We're going to put one here. And then I've got our thanks. And actually I have 2 of those. And then I have 2 of the white. I have to glue them together. So let's get this put down first. I think I'm going to use this one, because this one has a little bit darker here. I like that little bit of scattered. So let's add this to our panel. I'm just going to center that right here on our card panel base. Okay. Now, one thing that you could also do is you could actually add one more fun little element, is that you could actually do, let me do it. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do the whole thing. Oh, it's starting to storm outside. I'm hearing thunderstorms. I am going to tuck it under. It's not as important. You could cut it off. I'm going to tuck it under. And then I go ahead and peel that release paper off. Once again, grab my scratch paper. And I put my embossing powder away. Grab my tulip embossing powder one more time. We're just going to add just a little bit more. Now, of course, I didn't add any stacked powder tool, so, you know, that might leave some glittery marks on the side. I'm going to go ahead and worry about doing the backs, too, just so it's not sticky. You don't have to do the back, but I'm going to. Okay. I am going to tap this off a little harder because it is going to stick pretty well to that double-sided adhesive. So, sorry this is a little bit longer video, but I wanted to show you how I swatch out my embossing powders. If you've never seen me do that, I usually do some sort of reel with that once a month with the embossing powder of the month. I'm going to go ahead and just wipe this off here. And then I'm going to set this. I didn't get my line completely straight, which is how I usually roll. Just keep it moving. As my heat tool gets hotter and hotter, it'll go faster. Try to do my back corners here so that it doesn't bubble off. Okay. Now I don't want to touch that because it's still warm. But, so we're going to take our sentiment, and this is, I decided to do the backer with the embossing powder and do it in white. Mostly because my one with embossing powder ended up sticking into the die and tearing, and so I just thought I'd go with this. I'm going to go ahead and use the liquid glue. Oops, there we go. Here comes the rain. And I set that down on my sentiment. I'm gonna do it real kind of slow, just to make sure it lines up properly. There we go. And if a little glue oozes out, it's fine. Just grab your towel and touch it. And make sure it's a clean towel, because if it's a dirty towel, you could get ink blending on it. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and put our thanks here. And then I've got these glitter stock flowers. This glitter stock was part of day one. These flowers are from the die that came in last month's. Oops, that is not enough glue. Last month's inspiration box, and I hadn't had a chance to use them yet, so I thought I would cut them out. I'm going to go ahead and put my magnet down on the top to hold them in place because glitter stock needs a little extra time, a little extra glue. You could pop these up if you want. You see there's a little hole in the middle. You can put something in the middle if you want to make it colorful. I'm just going to do this, and this is the bubble gum and the sugar plum, I believe, cardstock, glitter stock. And then I think these actually you can like pop up like this, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and start putting my flowers down, and I'm going to put one here because I want to cover up kind of where I had that oopsie whoopsie from my tape that didn't get perfectly. Go ahead and put my sentiment down. And then I will add a flower here. And then we're going to put this one, center that up a little bit more. We're going to put this one right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of glue to the center. You could add gems, you could add whatever you want. I am going to do gems. I want to use the pink ones I had before. And go ahead and stick one of those down in the center. And if you guys can hear the rain, it is raining hard. There we go. There is day 10 using the embossing powder from the spring countdown box. Look at all the shimmer and shine on that between the glitter stock and the embossing powder. It's awesome. So stay tuned for day 11.